What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go through playing Yakuza 4, my 2023 review. I've been on an absolute tear, and, I did take a break after Kiwami 2, but then I played 3, and I do think 3 is easily the series' lowest point. I definitely believe that. Then I started to play 4. Now, when I recorded the video for 3, I had played maybe the first 20-25% of 4, and I said, there's something special to 4. Well, now, at the time of recording 4, I'm actually in the finale of 5. So I can tell you that I do prefer 5 over 4, although 4 is definitely a coming back, for the franchise. 3, again, being pretty darn weak and being the end of really this era of Kiryu being the main playable character and the only playable character, because this time we have 4 of them. Now, I actually think this game starts out incredibly strong because of Akiyama. I think Akiyama is a great character. I knew, because you can see like the cover art, of these games, you can say, oh my god, that's a lot of people on the cover of Yakuza 4, it's a lot of people on the cover of 5, and you play as a lot of different characters in these games. In fact, you play as 4 of them in 4, 5 of them in 5, so they just like kept upping the ante there, and it's like, all right, well, are they going to be able to make me fall in love with characters that really aren't Kiryu and I'd say maybe Majima, right? Those are probably my 2 favorite characters of the entire series, and they still are. And so, I get a little worried. Okay, can they make 4 characters in this game, and can they make it work? I think they make it work with 3 of them. I think the cop, Tenemura, I think is how you say his name, I am not a fan. I'm not really a fan of his story elements, and I'm definitely not a fan of his combat. So, I like to throw in the combat in each one of these videos, knowing full well that the combat does relatively stay the same, but this one I do think it's important to throw it out there because it's not just one character, it's not just one fighting style, it's actually multiple. So not only is Akiyama a really just fun character, got a lot of energy, kind of wacky, giving out these loans, right, not asking for interest. I really like the character. I think he's a fantastic character. I've enjoyed his sections in 5, playing 5, and we'll talk about that in that video, but I really like him, like, all the way around. I think starting with him was a really good idea because immediately it's just a breath of fresh air. You're doing something different. You're in a different body, right? Just everything feels a little bit off in a good way, and then you fight with him, and his fighting style with mainly, a lot of kicking, a lot of like getting distance on people, or I guess making up distance on people, I absolutely love. And I think, Saejima is actually, his fighting style is really cool as well, but I think Akiyama's I may like the most. Of course, when you then play as Kiryu, you say, okay, here's like, he's kind of heavy, but he's a little agile. Like, you just feel almost like at home when you're playing as him later in the game. But Akiyama, I think, feels awesome. Saejima being like a literal tank, I love his fighting. It took a while. It took a while to get into it, but once you start to level stuff up, and once you kind of like understand he can take some hits to charge up his own and then just wreck somebody, I love his attacks. I love how much damage he can do to people. I love just all his moves, especially as you get him a little bit more powerful. Tenemura, oh my dear God, he is atrocious in this game, and it really highlights itself towards the end of the game. I believe he has to go up against like the goons, like the multiple enemies with like SWAT armor and stuff, and oh my God, like his thing is all about like parrying and doing kind of grabs and stuff. I had to kind of cheat the game a little bit by doing that with him because he is so freaking difficult to me, and I'm not the greatest fighting in these games. I've seen people do it much better than me, but I thought he was horrifically bad in terms of the gameplay. And, because you're doing the gameplay for these characters so often, you do kind of start to dread, okay, when I'm getting to one that I'm not liking, or obviously the way it's broken up is the 4 of them, and then at the end, you kind of combine them all. And I love the ending. I love the idea of 4 bosses, and they're each individual protagonist's enemy, and they get to kind of like face off. I think that's really smart. I just could not stand playing as him. So there's the combat for you. I thought overall, breath of fresh air, because you do get 3 new people and 3 new kind of fighting techniques. 2 of them are extremely good and maybe even rival Kiryu, and then one of them is just, please never do that again in my life. Another thing I'll say that I very, very much did not like about this game is the tunneling system slash the I guess like above ground tunnels as well, which means like on top of buildings. I thought those two things were atrocious. There's a lot of sections in this game where you have to like hide from people. Saejima has to do that a few times, where you have to get from one point of the map to the next, and you have to avoid cops. So you have to go in alleyways, you have to go up these stairs, and on all these buildings you have to go underground and turning left and right. I thought it was honestly atrocious. The chase scenes are a little bit better here than they are in 3. I think 3 is honestly the series low. I think it's absolutely horrific how bad chase sequences are in 3. I like them more in 4, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're good, to be honest with you. I'd say they're like serviceable or tolerable. 5, I will spoil ahead of time. I think 5 is the best that I've seen it, so far. I know they keep going, I'm pretty sure, so hopefully they continue to get better. But 4 is okay. And then there's the story. So while the characters are amazing, and I think at least most of them are amazing, and I love Saejima, the prison break, the game has its like cliches that we've seen. Number 1, it ends on a rooftop again. Number 2, it has a helicopter at the end again. They literally can't help themselves. In fact, one sequence with a lot of backstabbing that happens before the ending also is on a rooftop, right when they're exchanging money, and then you literally have the 4-way boss fight, which is again on a rooftop, only this time it's got helicopters. You got multiple times where characters again cannot remember to just make sure the gun is not near the bad guy. So many times have you defeated the villain for the gun to drop 5 feet away, the camera will show the gun, and you will say, I know that somebody's going to get shot. Either they're gonna die, like Lily slash Yuzuko, I think is maybe how you say her name. She's a great character, and I was very, very sad to see her get shot. But it was very obvious because Saejima, or at least I knew, that he was also gonna be in 5. So when he gets shot in the arm, it's like, okay, well, he's gonna shoot him again, so something's gonna have to stop that, and it's probably gonna be a human body, because that tends to happen in these games. People take bullets for each other. So you have that happening. You have people having bulletproof vests on again. You have, again, the gun issue that nobody can keep track of these things, so people just pick them up when they feel like it. You got fake out deaths like Akiyama at the end, which I thought was kind of clever, like his stack of cash being the thing to save him. I thought that was rather fun, and I didn't believe for one second, that he actually died there anyway. But, you can mix it in a little bit, but the game's got all the normal cliches that the series has had. But it's also had some stuff that I do think has made genuine impact on me, like, I'm going to say Lily just because it's so much easier. I know that's not her real name, but her death I thought was honestly really tragic, and again, can you see it coming? Well, there's a lot of betrayals. There's a lot of like guns turning 180 to shoot people. Like, you kind of know certain things are happening, but when she gets shot, it's like, yeah, that's extremely, extremely sad, because everybody kind of has a relationship to her, some more than others, right? Her being Saejima's sister, like that's a little bit more, but she knows everybody a little bit. Akiyama like loves the girl because she reminds him of his ex, which is a little odd, and I don't even know why they did something like that, but hey, it is what it is. So she's got these relations, so everybody's gonna feel bad when they find out, and they do the funeral thing for her. So you have a scene like that. When Majima gets arrested, that was like a jaw-dropping moment to me, where it's like, what is going on? It was Daigo that did it, and it's like, oh my god, all these betrayals. And to see my second favorite, maybe tied for my first favorite character, with the handcuffs on, it's like, oh my god, this sucks. Also seeing Saejima and Majima together, both in the flashback, I suppose, or when Saejima gets arrested, and then also the present time, like at the batting cage and stuff like that. There's some really epic scenes, and again, I think consistency, well, I don't know if it's fully consistent throughout the entire game. It's definitely more consistent than 3. I just think for the simple fact that you are always switching characters, and you are always like doing things, whereas 3, most of the time you're at an orphanage watching over kids, and I do think like the impact of that maybe comes over where, when Kiryu starts this game, when you first see him and he's at the orphanage, and it's like, okay, a carryover thing there. Towards the end of the game when, and I don't know any of these people, the game's confusing. The story of this game, to me, because it's not just like a plot of land like in Yakuza 0 or anything like that. This game, I think, is pretty hard with all the betrayals, with 4 different villains, with them all kind of doing something different. I can't remember names to save my life in the first place, so when the one general guy puts the pictures of the kids on the desk and puts a gun and says, like, basically go do what you have to do to the orphanage to get Kiryu to agree with you, and then the guy shoots him and says, I'm not doing that. I felt like emotion. Well, maybe it's because they're kids and they don't really deserve that no matter what, but also it's like, oh, I know them. Well, you know Haruka obviously, but you know the other ones as well too, because you played the third game. So it's got some of that, but it also just has that jumping around. There's some intrigue. There's Saejima taking out 18 people, but then he didn't take out those 18 people. Then he was firing not blanks, but he was firing basically something that was able to hurt them so much but not kill them, and then they were just killed like 5 minutes later when he left. It's kind of wild. It's kind of unbelievable, but it is literally Yakuza to a T. I would not say, again, this is like my favorite of them. It felt like a breath of fresh air because of the 4 of them, and I think just because of I literally went from 3 to 4 like immediately. I was gonna take another break, but after playing 3, it's like, all right, let me just try 4, and I was really hoping that the beginning would get me, and it did. I mean, that's the thing I think worked really, really well. I think it's the right order. Doing Akiyama, leading that into getting to Majima, and then Majima tells the story of Saejima back in 85. It's like, okay, well, now we're doing that. Now we're doing a prison breakout. Then he leaves, and now you know where Kiryu's at. Now you do the cop, you do that scene, you do Kiryu, and you bring everybody together for the ending. It also kind of makes them all, like, pretty equal. Like, you feel like all of them are just as important to the story as others. I feel like, again, because I knew ahead of time, just because I saw the box cover for 4 and then 5. I knew the cop wasn't going to be in 5, so I was like, okay, well, I feel like I'm going to probably like the 3 more. I think they're going to be the carryovers more, so they probably have more to them, and I think that's true. Akiyama, I just felt, again, all of them obviously have a really big part to play in the overall story, but in terms of like character stuff, I think Akiyama and Saejima, specifically those two, got a lot of the character development in this game, which I think they needed, because obviously being the first time they saw them. So I'll tell you, because I'm not done with 5. I literally have maybe like 3-4 hours left. I don't know what happens to them, because I know in 6, it's Kiryu's last final kind of like standalone game, but I think it's just him, so it's like, where's everybody else? I don't actually know the answer to that, so I'm pretty excited to see the last couple hours of 5. But no, 4's good. I wouldn't put it towards the top. I think 3 is easily at the bottom right now. 0 continues to, I think, be like the greatest one. Another thing in terms of the story, and, I'm sorry I'm not spending too much time talking about it, because, again, a lot of it I don't remember. Like, I beat it maybe like 2 weeks ago. It really wasn't all that long, but because of all the names and because of all the alliances and because of all the backstabbings, it's hard. And I also just feel like simplicity, although the series has never been simplistic, I do feel like it's at its best when it is simplistic. So I actually think the moments in this game when they're being simplistic are the best. Like, I feel for certain characters. I feel for, I guess I understand the character of Akiyama and his journey to get all that money, why he's doing what he's doing now, the no, interest kind of thing. Just kind of understand that personality. Saejima and Majima's kind of relationship. Like, you feel those individual moments, but not really the bigger picture, like the overall story. And I think that's kind of fine, because I don't think the story is perfect. Whereas when I think back to 0, yeah, I can't think of too many like people's names, but I remember certain boss fights. I do remember certain characters. I remember plot of land, very, very important. The empty lot or whatever it's called. So maybe I don't remember it fully, but again, at its most simplistic, I do think it's when it's best, because I think the characters are always quite good and they do let them shine, and they go through some wacky stuff, but they are grounded, like, in a way, so when characters do die, when they actually die and not fake out die, you do feel it. You do actually care about it. I think this game managed to do that. So I was happy with it. I'm happy so far with what I've done in 5. I'm almost done with it, so you'll see a video on that very, very soon on the channel. Let me know what you think about Yakuza 4. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed, and I hope to see you all on the next one.